So I wanted to address this too, as well. And it's interesting. I wanted to keep this as a separate video because I think it's important to note. Because as we're addressing, this political climate, this gatekeeping, this kind of tension in the goth scene, because going into this kind of like cancel culture and some of the bands that have experienced these things, and to be honest with you, there are bands that are out there that, maybe they're just, and some of them are just more moderate, but they have to do certain things, or they don't discuss politics because they know they'll get ostracized, and they want to stay in the good graces of not only these, not only the audience, but they also want the good graces of the promoters. Because unfortunately, there are DJs and promoters that are out there, and mind you, this is not like the 90s or even the 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, where like you could have a club with like 500 people in the scene that are all participating. Now, are you kidding me? Even in major cities, you may not even get, and with a band, like a decent band, you may not even get like 200 people. I'm sure y'all can tell me out there. There are probably different club scenes where the numbers are really low. I'm sure there's some that are, that do have the numbers. And just because of either, whoever the person is that runs it, or, just the audience, it's just is there, right? But it all depends where and when and all that stuff. But I will get into this as well. And, you have seen a decline. Younger generations are not like, there's some, but there's, some younger generations, and I see it all the time in these videos or whatever, where they complain. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm dancing like I'm in a goth club, and people are like, I've never been to one. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you, aren't you experiencing this? Like, aren't you going to see the artists? Like, aren't you going to see the touring bands? And I get it, maybe you don't have access to that, or you're, you don't have the, you don't live in a major city or something, but, that's part of supporting it. And looking at the Gothic subculture, I did a historical essay on looking at religiosity, and that's I'm probably even saying that wrong, but oopsies. But basically, looking at like a Christianity, for example, your religiosity would be like, how often are you attending church? Are you taking communion? Are you reading scripture? How often are you praying? So obviously each individual will provide, how much involvement are they in? Likewise, in the goth scene, are you just like sitting around watching YouTubes and you're not actually like buying the music or going to events? Like, then you're not very active in that scene. I'm just going to be honest with you. Now, with that in mind, the music, right? It's music-based. So are you purchasing the music? Are you supporting the music? And I get it. Maybe there's a band you like, but you separate art from the artist, and you're kind of like, well, I don't really like their views. Okay, I get it. It is what it is. But me, as a Christian that, not only in the goth scene, but in the metal scene, especially in the more extreme forms of death and black metal, I get it. There's bands, especially in black metal, that do not like Christianity. And, hey, separate art from the artist, right? If they don't, they don't have to have the same worldview as me to be able to enjoy the music and apply it to what I personally enjoy out of the music. But I digress. The bottom line is, when it comes to your participation in the scene, are you going to club events? Are you going to concert events? Are you buying the music? Are you supporting the music? Are you listening to the music? It's all part of it, right? You can dress up like it. That's fine too. But the music is the main emphasis. That plays into that concept. I'll say this, I did it, for almost 4 years, booking bands, doing DJ, DJing with it. And our focus was always music. That's it. We want to create a space that's all about the music, no more of the politics or any of the silliness, drama, no drama. Let's just focus on the music. Now, not everybody was on board. Some people didn't like me because they know I'm Christian and I lean more conservative, so they just generally didn't like me. So it is what it is. But we had some good times. We had bands. We booked bands that some may have shared our worldview, and many did. We even booked black metal bands too. So it's like, they didn't share our worldview, and my worldview, and that's okay. I want you to have a place to share the music, and if you want to have discussions, we can have discussions. And there were great discussions between people, at different points, and that's it. That's how you keep a scene alive. You work together in this, but. And I'm not going to compromise principles because of it. I'm going to treat everybody, the golden rule, the way they should be treated. The Bible emphasizes, we're not just supposed to love our friends and family, we're supposed to love our enemies as ourselves. And I'm not saying, I'm going to book my enemies, but I'm saying like, a contrary worldview, okay, I'll book you, that's okay, because you can share your art and whatnot. And we can have discussions at any point if you're curious, like, why do I believe in what I believe in? But I will say this, coming out of the wake of that, and I'll say this also, there was a young woman from Los Angeles, from the Los Angeles scene, that made a video that had addressed, attending events. And I'll be honest, I was with her 100% on that. As I've gotten older, I'm almost in my 40s, I don't really care to attend like goth club events, whether it's actual goth or industrial or death rock, that or EBM, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that's not what I'm really interested in at this point in my life. Like, that was awesome when I was a teenager and then in my 20s, but now that I am older, I have more of I prioritize seeing bands and seeing artists. So like goth, death rock artists, I want to see the live music, so I'm going to prioritize that. Now, I did as a youth, but there was just a plethora of everything. But now it's much less, monthly events, or even some that are like every couple of months. But I'd much rather focus financially and like time, because it's time, a lot going on in life when you're older. I'd rather go see live music, and so that's just me. But I get it. And so for people that are like, I want to go to my goth event, but the DJ like hates me because of my worldview or promoter, and that happens. There's plenty of events where I've seen the promoter voice their opinion and they want nothing to do with somebody. I've seen some that say, if you believe in this, I don't want you around. And so, from a business perspective, that's absolutely like ridiculous. But hey, unfortunately, there's people that share that worldview with them. So to me, okay, go ahead. Go have your little, group, do your little thing. I don't want to have a part of it. I'd much rather see a musician live that, wants people, no matter what, to hear their art and share in that experience. So I'd much rather do that and invest in that. But folks, the gatekeeping and that type of political, animosity, it's gotten silly. And it's gotten destructive. If the scene's going to survive, people have to wake up and say, you know what, people are going to have differentiating views. And guess what? We're all individuals in this existence anyway, not to get into philosophy, but we all have the ego. We all are our own human being. Nobody on the planet thinks exactly alike, because everybody's uniquely different with their own unique life experiences. So in the end, you gotta do something about it, because then you're just going to be alone in a room. You might as well just put on your headphones and sit there. So, folks, God bless you. Keep up the good fight, and I just want to emphasize that these are shared experiences that we're all feeling, and this animosity. And I hope, for me, I just keep faith in God, and everybody's a sinner, nobody's perfect, and so this idea that people are imperfect, of course they are. There's no good, or there's no good people. Everybody's done something wrong, and so I think it's a point where we need to understand that first and foremost, and recognize that. And so God bless you, and until next time.